Wrung every last drop out of that one, didn't we? The Eagles and Hotel California. So advice to eat more fat is irresponsible and potentially deadly. Well, that's according to Public Health England's chief nutritionist. Dr. Alison Tedston was responding to a report by the National Obesity Forum, which suggests eating fat could help cut obesity and type 2 diabetes. It is confusing, I know, so let's get some advice from Dr. Zoe Harcombe, nutritionist, is on the line. Zoe, good evening.
Good evening.
Now, you've supported the findings from the National Obesity Forum, so why are you backing this report?
Well, essentially because the dietary guidelines that came out in 1983 were the opposite. So in a way, we've been a little bit provocative. But if we can just have a tiny little nutritional lesson to start off with, there are only three things that we eat: fat, carbohydrate, and protein. Protein is in everything other than oils and sucrose, which is not really a food, and therefore it tends to stay pretty constant in our diets at around 15 to 20%. So the two things that vary, the things we call macronutrients that vary, are fat and carbohydrate. Now, in 1983, a diktat was put out saying have no more than 30% of your calories in the form of carbohydrate. Because of protein staying pretty constant at around 15%, that meant a whopping 55% of our diet in the form of carbohydrate. So what we're saying is you've got to eat more fat and less carbohydrate, and that's the key thing. It's about shifting the balance back, but our fundamental message is we need to eat real food, but it just so happens that eat real food is naturally rich in the fats that we need for optimal health, and that's why we've got to stop fearing it.
Public Health England have been really quite scathing, haven't they, about this report from the National Obesity Forum. They say they have cherry-picked, they have not been peer-reviewed, they've looked only at 43 studies instead of thousands of scientific studies that Public Health England look at, and potentially the advice that they're giving could kill people.
Oh, it's priceless. The Public Health England guidelines came out in March of this year. We'd had what I call the Eat Badly plate. They called it the Eat Well plate for a number of years before then, actually since 2007. So almost 10 years on, they revised this advice, and it became the Eat Badly guide, the Eat Well guide, not the Eat Badly plate anymore. And that was put together. It was not peer-reviewed. It was not subject to consultation. I didn't recognise, or I don't think there were any references in it, to be honest. And it was put together by a group picked by Public Health England. Now, if I tell you the people on that group included the Institute of Grocery Distribution, the British Nutrition Foundation, don't be fooled, that's the who's who of the fake food industry, British Retail Consortium, Food and Drink Federation, and the Association of Convenience Stores. So think of a brand, and the ones I've got in my head at the moment: Coca-Cola, Burger King, British Sugar, Greggs, Heinz, KP Snacks, Mars, McCain, McDonald's, Nestle, PepsiCo, keep going. And those companies were represented by the Guideline Development Group, putting together our role model healthy eating guidelines.
Right.
Now, for Public Health England to call a bunch of global scientists, academics, nutritionists, dietitians who are not funded by the fake food industry, to call us irresponsible is priceless.
Let's then get back to the statistics you mentioned at the start of our chat. So back in the 80s, 55% or so carbs, 30% fats, 15% protein. Where would you like to see those figures sit in relation to each other? How many more percentage points fat should we be eating?
That's a great question, because it gets to the heart of the problem that we have with the current dietary advice, and that is we should not set macronutrient targets. What we want is for every single report on obesity, SAN committee, public health, plates, pyramids, all this stuff that comes out, just rip the whole lot up. It would fill the British Library. Just rip it up. It's all completely unnecessary, confusing, pointless. We need to go out with three words as our public health message, and that is eat real food. And you can teach a 5-year-old what real food is. Oranges grow on trees, cartons of orange juice don't. Fish swim in the sea, breaded fish fingers don't. You know, they can get it so quickly. And then the message is eat real food. Now, if you eat real food, the proportions end up being what they will be. So real food means meat, you know, ideally quality meat. Grass-fed is the kind of thing that we embrace. Fish, particularly oily fish, it's much more nutritious than white fish. Eggs, dairy produce, including full-fat dairy, cheese, yogurt, and all the things that they've been getting very exercised about today. Now, if you choose food for the nutrients that it contains, the vitamins and the minerals, you would not naturally choose carbohydrates. I've done the analysis, I've blogged on it. You put red meat, mackerel, sardines, kale, sunflower seeds, nuts, up against flour, rice, pasta, potatoes. They cannot hold a candle to the basic animal foods and nuts and seeds that are provided by the planet. We're just not following evidence-based nutrition.
Well, I must admit, I've always drunk full-fat milk. I've always eaten cheese, and I love butter. I look around when I walk into the supermarket at everybody else who seems to be going for the 0% and the spreads and all the rest. Are they doing the wrong thing then?
Yes, definitely. For two reasons. Because often when you take fat out of products, you have to put something else back in to get the taste, which is what the fake food industry does. And the primary thing, the obvious thing to go back in when you take fat out is, of course, sugar. Which is why sugar has come into the news a lot more recently as people have realised that this completely void of nutrition substance, difficult to even understand how it qualifies as a food, it has taken over our diet. Look around someone's supermarket trolley, virtually everything has this sugary, sucrose substance in it. Now, there are occasions, so for example with milk, you can take the fat out, you don't put sugar in, but you take out the taste, you take out the satiety, you take out the fat-soluble vitamins, and then you get to the end of the glass of the skim milk, and the body's saying, well, where was the vitamin A and the vitamin D? You know, go and get me another glass because I'm still expecting these things to appear. So you don't have the satiety that real food delivers.
Really interesting. Thank you, Zoe. Really good to talk to you tonight. Dr. Zoe Harcombe is a nutritionist. We've been talking about the findings from the National Obesity Forum, who've been saying, look, just don't worry about fat. Fat does not make you fat, and potentially we should be eating more of it. As Zoe says, just eat real foods. As she writes, it works for you. Why then is 1 in 4 adults in the UK thought to be obese? How are we getting it so wrong? Your thoughts, your views, your opinions, 81333 on the text. Mark, right, the love affair, everlasting love.
BBC Radio Cornwall.